Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Another member of the Vols secondary is off to the transfer portal. We got a potential target we're going to talk about, but, how would you grade what Josh Heupel and this coaching staff have done so far via the transfer portal? You go and look at the guys that they've added. Of course, just added a nice commitment yesterday with the wide receiver from Tulane, Chris Brazel. Really excited about him. I like his size. One of the things I liked in reading his commitment was that he was excited about coming to Tennessee and playing alongside Nico Iamaleava. I think he gives you another weapon on the outside, a target in that red zone. That's what really gets me fired up about Chris Brazel. Also, a recent commitment from Jermod McCoy. I think he's a guy that's being brought in, transfer from Oregon State, to be the starter at corner. I think that's what he's going to do. He's going to lock down one side. Does Ricky Gibson start on the other side? And we're going to get into it and talk about the secondary. You also added Jacoby Thomas, MTSU safety, and then, of course, Holden Stace, the number one tight end in the portal. I think that's obviously clearly a win. But when you look at this secondary, where do they end up depth-wise? Because you got to look at a football team that just against Vanderbilt had a walk-on out there at the star position. So with this mass exodus of players, where do they go for depth? Are they still eyeing some guys in the portal? Are they hoping things work out in the spring? Or are they looking for a youth movement? We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. But as always, do me a favor and smash that thumbs up just below the video. It's quick, it's free, it's easy, it helps the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you're new to the Talkin VAWLS Network, welcome. We're not experts, we're not insiders, we're not media. We don't pretend to be that. What this channel is for the fans, by the fans. We are fans just like you. If you like the content, make sure you subscribe. Click that bell for notifications. You're not going to miss out when we go live or when we drop a video. Speaking of Jermod McCoy, speaking of some of these new players coming to Tennessee, getting with Coach Jay a little bit later today, we're going to do a film breakdown on Jermod McCoy, so stay tuned for that. The film breakdown series is on the way back, so that should be exciting. But let's jump into it. Let's talk about it. This is what was out on Twitter earlier this morning. Tennessee safety Wesley Walker has entered the transfer portal, finished this season with 33 tackles, a forced fumble, and 2 pass breakups, started his career at Georgia Tech. So now when you go and you look at the players that have entered the transfer portal, just a wave of players from the secondary. Warren Burrell out the door, Danico Slaughter, Tamarian McDonald, Jack Luttrell, Brandon Turnage, Deshaun Rucker, and now Wesley Walker. So, we're talking about a secondary that struggled, right? We know that. We get that. We've talked that to death. One of the worst passing defenses in the SEC. It's a defense that going into 2023, I was saying, man, this defense, I think they can take a step. They took a step from year 1 to year 2 under Tim Banks, and I thought they could take a step from year 2 to year 3. And one of the counterpoints, one of the arguments I got was based on what, Boogie? It's the same guys coming back. And did we see that improvement? No, we didn't. So what's the next option for Josh Heupel, who I think is pushing his chips in? I think Josh Heupel knows 2024 is that time. It is go time. Your quarterback is in place. Your players are in place. It's time to go win. It's time to go have success and kind of repeat what we saw in 2022. And we talked earlier in a recruiting video and live streams about how, there's a narrative out there that Tennessee didn't capitalize. They didn't take advantage of the success that they had in 2022. But something you got to realize, that NCAA investigation was still hanging over their head. Every school that they were in it with top targets for is using that. You're not going to be able to play in a bowl game. They're not going to be able to go in the postseason. They're not going to be able to play in the college football playoff. Why would you go to Tennessee? The NCAA is going to burn them to the ground. Now we're past that. But I think he knows that going into year four at the University of Tennessee with your quarterback in place, the generational talent, it is go time. There is so much pressure on Josh Heupel going into 2024, but I think he understands that, and I think he is pushing for a youth movement across the board. It's not a surprise that Wesley Walker's not going to be at Tennessee next year. Stepbrother of Tyler Barron, who also entered the transfer portal. Everything indicated that Wesley Walker wasn't going to be back for 2024. Little interesting that he is entering the portal, though, and just not hanging up the cleats. That kind of surprised me a little bit. But how does Tennessee attack this secondary? Because you pull up the transfer portal. You go look at some of the targets. There's not a lot there that Tennessee is in communication with. Nothing that I've seen that Tennessee is talking to somebody that's a corner, talking to somebody that's a safety. So is it a youth movement? And when you pull up the depth chart and you look, it is depleted at this point. You've got the young freshman corners, right? Ricky Gibson started to come along late. Christian Conyer, Jordan Matthews. Are those guys ready to take the next step? Who ends up in that star position? There's a guy coming in as a true freshman that's an absolute baller, an absolute gamer. Can he start as a true freshman? Can Boo Carter come in at the University of Tennessee and start as a true freshman at the star position? Is that, I would like to crawl inside Josh Heupel's head and see what his game plan is here in the portal that he's now lost 7 players out of that secondary. It's a concern. It's a concern because what if the right guys don't go in? What if you don't get the right pieces of the puzzle? And again, you've already added a couple. You've added Jamad McCoy, and you also added the kid from MTSU, Jacoby Thomas. Are you counting on Jacoby Thomas to come in and be one of your starting safeties? Are you counting on Jacoby Thomas to come in and be, your starter at that star position? Are you going to be able to count on Jordan Thomas? Secondary's depleted. We'll see how it plays out. You're going to have another wave of players in the spring, but usually the most talent is during this current cycle. So who is Tennessee targeting? You've already got 4 commitments via the transfer portal for this cycle. Who else are they targeting? Well, one of the top players in the transfer portal, it is now confirmed via VolQuest that Tennessee is in contact with Evan Stewart. They like to say, they'll kick the tires there. What does that mean? What does kick the tires mean? Does that mean you pick up the phone and give them a phone call and say, hey, are you interested in coming to Tennessee? Well, per VolQuest, Tennessee trying to get Evan Stewart on campus for a visit, likely in January. Nothing confirmed yet, but that is what they are pushing to do. I saw an article at collegefootballnetwork.com, and it said 5 possible landing spots for Evan Stewart: Texas, Florida, Alabama, LSU, and the Tennessee Volunteers. It says here, a wide-open offense and a team in need of weapons make the Tennessee Volunteers real suitors for Stewart in the transfer portal. Heupel's offense pairs well for outside receivers as it does inside, but someone with Stewart's versatility would likely never leave the field. Couple that with the fact that the quarterback situation looks bright, with the promise of Nico Iamaleava and Stewart's previous unofficial visit to Tennessee, and you've got yourself quite the pairing. So that's some possible landing spots for Evan Stewart. He is one of the top players in the transfer portal. When you look at overall rankings, it's 2 guys from Texas A&M. It's Walter Nolan and it's Evan Stewart at the top of the transfer portal. He grades out as a 5-star. Coming out of high school, 5-star prospect, one of the top wide receivers in the country. Actually, 247 Sports had him as the top wide receiver in the country. As a transfer, 247 Sports also has him as a 5-star, number 1 wide receiver in the portal, number 2 player overall. As a freshman, hauled in 53 catches, 649 yards, and 2 touchdowns. In 2023, he was a little banged up to start the year and also a little banged up down the stretch, but he finished the year with 38 catches, 514 yards, and 4 touchdowns. The scouting report, this guy can do it all. Adequate size, lean, hyper-athletic build, one of the most dynamic athletes in his cycle, layered with athletic context. Pairs those qualities with elite natural receiver skills, tracks well downfield, and displays terrific adjustment abilities and body control when required. Field speed reflects track speed, 10.58. A 10.58 in the 100. Speed, athleticism, legitimate dude. Goes on to say he yields dangerous vertical field stretching threat, equally dangerous in run after catch situations thanks to explosive athleticism. Twitchy off the line, gets on top of corners quickly. Not only linear burner, but flashes impressive lateral suddenness will make you miss open field athleticism. Because of that, should own a high ceiling as a route runner, especially leveraging defensive backs into breaks is not an issue. Willing to get in traffic with springy, elevating burst. If you don't want Evan Stewart in this offense, I don't know what to tell you. And that was a big question when he entered the portal. A lot of you guys tagging me on Twitter, a lot of people talking about it. Go get Evan Stewart. But then you're also talking about just adding the 6'5" wide receiver, Chris Brazel. Do you really need to add 2 wide receivers? Well, the answer is yes. When one of those guys is Evan Stewart, you add Evan Stewart into this offense. And I was having a conversation with one of the listeners yesterday. We were talking about this defense and, what are they going to look like in 2024? Let's make it like 2022. Let's go out and score 50 points a game. Let's go out and have the number 1 scoring offense in the country and let the chips fall where they may. Let's go back to being what Josh Heupel, what he does. Let's go back to being dominant on offense and just being efficient. And I know the clip from Heupel. We're going to play elite defense. How about we just go out and we hang 50 on everybody every single week and we let the chips fall where they may? If you get Evan Stewart in the boat, this offense is starting to become unstoppable. You're returning your entire offensive line. You're returning Squirrel White, Dante Thornton on the outside. What does he do? I don't know. We'll see how he develops. Now you're adding Brazel, 6'5", a legitimate red zone threat. You're adding the number one tight end in the portal. Now do you want to go add the number one wide receiver in the portal as well? Does Brew McCoy come back? You have weapons all over this offense. Let's go out and let Nico sling the rock. Oh, by the way, you got a couple of stud running backs too. You guys wanted to free the cheetah. You guys wanted to see Dylan Sampson all year long. Guess what? You're going to see a whole lot of him in this bowl game coming up next week and also in 2024. I like Dylan Sampson and Cam Seldon in that backfield. I think they're going to be just fine. Tons of weapons. You go add Evan Stewart. This offense is going to challenge that 2022 offense as possibly the best offense in history at Tennessee. Mark it down, book it. What do you guys think? Jump into the comments section. Are you more confident in this football team if you go get Evan Stewart? How is your feelings about the defense? Wesley Walker into the portal. That is now 7 defensive backs that are off this team, a team that had a walk-on playing at star against Vanderbilt, and you've added 2 via the portal. Is it a youth movement? Can Boo Carter start at the star position? A lot to unpack. Been kind of rambling in this one. Just a lot of stuff to think about as we head into 2024. But that is going to do it for this one. Smash the thumbs up on the way out the door. Go check out the merchandise. The link is in the description below. Also, shout out to the members. If you like this channel, you want to support this channel, the best thing you can do is hit that join button down below for $1. You keep the lights on around here, and we would appreciate it. But that's going to do it for this one. This is the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Go Big Orange.